On behalf of DACC's Office of Financial Aid and Scholarship Services, thank you for joining us. Today we are going to talk about dividing and conquering your financial aid. Financial aid is made up of many rules and regulations. We thought it would be important for you to understand a few of the most important concepts, including what financial aid is, where you get it, and how you keep it. Let's start with the basics. Financial aid is no small undertaking, but it's very important in helping students reach their educational goals. So, what is financial aid? Financial aid is any type of money that is given to you to assist with your educational expenses. It can come in the form of grants, loans, work study, and scholarships. Let's break it down award by award. Grants. Not every student qualifies for a grant. Grants are monies that do not need to be repaid. A student must qualify for a grant, and this qualification is usually based on income. The most common of all grants is the federal Pell Grant. If a student completes their financial aid application early and qualifies for a federal Pell Grant, there may be additional state or federal grants that can be awarded. Additional grants have limited funding and go to those whom apply the earliest. Loans. While loans aren't the best source of financial aid out there, they are an option. Unlike grants, loans must be repaid. There are two different types of federal loans, subsidized and unsubsidized loans. The better option of the two is subsidized. Subsidized loan interest does not accrue while the student is attending school, as the government pays the interest on these loans. Unsubsidized loans are less advantageous, but can still assist the student who needs funding. When borrowing an unsubsidized loan, interest accrues from the date that a student takes the loan out. Every July 1st, the interest rate changes and is fixed for the year. These loans are not based on your credit, but they do affect your credit and credit score when it's time to repay them. Work study is a federal and state program where a certain amount of funding is given to the student to earn wages from a part-time job while in school. To request work study, the student has to indicate interest by selecting yes on the FAFSA question asking whether the student would like to be considered. Funds are limited, and so not every student who requests work study will receive it. This is also a first-come, first-served program, and so students should apply early. Work study will allow students to work while in school, but for no more than 20 hours a week. One benefit is that jobs are usually on campus, although there are a few off-campus agencies that hire. If you received a work study award and need help finding a position, you can contact Career Services to help set up your Aggie Handshake profile. Aggie Handshake is where positions are displayed and where students can apply for positions. Scholarships. Scholarships are one of the most frequent inquiries by students, but they aren't guaranteed. Scholarships are usually need and/or merit-based. If they are need-based, you will need to fill out a FAFSA application so that your need is calculated. Merit-based scholarships look at how well you are doing in school, specifically your GPA. To receive a scholarship from DACC, you need to fill out your Scholar Dollars application at scholarships.nmsu.edu. The application opens October 1st of the year before the academic year you're applying for, but the priority deadline for scholarships has moved up to March 1st, meaning that if you have the application completed by March 1st, you have a better chance of getting a scholarship than those that complete the application after March 1st. Remember, complete the application at scholarships.nmsu.edu. A student's first step to receiving financial aid is filling out the application, known as the FAFSA, or Free Application for Federal Student Aid. You will first go online to fafsa.ed.gov and apply for an FSA ID. This FSA ID will be used for a variety of purposes, but chief among them is the ability to complete the FAFSA. You will need your tax information from 2 years before the aid year you're applying for. For example, if you're completing the 2020 to 2021 FAFSA, you will need tax information from the year 2018. If you are under 24 years of age, unmarried, or do not have children you can prove support for, you will need to gather your parents' information as well. Remember that the application is free, and any website asking for a fee to complete the FAFSA is untrustworthy. The application is now open as early as October 1st, which allows students to apply for aid nearly a year in advance. It's always better to complete your application early. The FAFSA application does have to be renewed yearly, and it's advantageous to complete the application by the priority deadline, which is March 1st. However, students can still complete the application throughout the aid year. It's possible that a student's file may be selected for verification. If this occurs, the Financial Aid Office will request certain paperwork or documentation. It's important to turn these documents in ASAP, because until a file is complete, aid won't disperse. Finally, students need to make sure that they're maintaining satisfactory academic progress to be eligible for financial aid. Satisfactory academic progress, or SAP, can be a little complicated. There are three basic components of SAP. The first is grade point average, or GPA. In order to remain eligible to receive aid, a student must maintain a cumulative GPA of 2.0, or about a C average. The second component requires that students pass and complete at least 70% of the credit hours they sign up for. Lastly, it's important to take classes that count towards a student's program of study, because the final component for SAP is time frame. The time frame requirements mean by the time you have attempted 90 credits, you are expected to have a degree. The average time for an associate's degree at DACC is 60 credits, and the maximum time frame will be 150% of the published length of a program. Cumulative GPA is the total number of graded points divided by the total number of credit hours. As shown in the slide, each letter grade has points assigned to it. Each course is worth a certain amount of credits, usually 3 or 4, although it's important for you to know for sure. Let's look at the following example. It may be best to form rows and columns to keep all our figures aligned. Patricia wants to calculate her GPA and has earned the following grades her first semester. The first step is to find the point value for each grade using the grading scale. Next, multiply the credit hours associated with each course with the points value for each grade Patricia received. Next, calculate the total credit hours by adding all credit hours together. Then, sum the total grade points found in the previous slide. The last step is to divide the total grade points by the total credit hours to arrive at the grade point average. This calculation can be done each semester to arrive at the semester GPA. In order to find the cumulative GPA, this calculation has to be done for every semester of attendance. The second component of SAP, completion rate, isn't quite as complicated to calculate. Students can calculate the completion rate by taking all the credit hours that were completed with passing grades and dividing that number by all attempted credit hours. The 70% standard for completion rate is cumulative, so all hours that are listed on record at NMSU or DACC will be counted. Letter grades of F, I, U, RR, or W are classes that have been attempted but not completed, so these are not factored into the numerator. It's always best to avoid any of these letter grades. Let's go ahead and try it out. In the example, the student has attempted 4 classes: English, Psychology, Criminal Justice, and Math. He passed 2 of the classes, failed 1 class, and withdrew from the last class. How many credits did the student attempt in total? We simply add up his total credits for the semester to get this answer. In this case, it's 13. How many credits did the student complete? To find this, add up all the passing hours. Even though there are not D's in our example, please keep in mind that D's are considered passing grades. In this case, he completed 6 credits, which leads us to our final question. What is the student's completion rate? 6 divided by 13 would give this student a 46% completion rate. Is that meeting the SAP standard for completion rate? No. Let's try another example. The student has 4 classes. How many credits were attempted? In this case, he attempted 13. How many credits were completed? In this case, 13. What is the student's completion rate? In this case, 100%. This student is meeting the SAP standard. The third component of SAP, time frame, is simple to calculate, but can still confuse students. By federal law, students are expected to earn their degree within 150% of the credits the degree requires. Most degrees at the DACC campus require 60 credits to graduate. If we multiply 60 credits by 150%, we get 90. This is the number of hours that a student can attempt before financial aid eligibility may be exhausted. Keep in mind that it is 90 attempted hours, not just hours that a student has passed. The extra 50% that a student is being given will allow for a couple of withdrawals or failed courses, maybe even a brief stint in an unwanted major. One of the most common questions for the financial aid office is, why haven't I gotten my aid yet? This could be due to several reasons. As mentioned before, it's possible that the financial aid office will request certain paperwork or documentation. Without these items to complete a student's file, financial aid will not disperse. It's possible that a student is not meeting satisfactory academic progress. The 2.0 cumulative GPA, the 70% completion rate, and the time frame requirement are very important. The federal government will only allow students to receive aid up to a certain point. The Pell Grant will have a maximum eligibility of 6 full-time aid years. These 6 years are the limit for a student's undergraduate career, so it's important that a student who intends to receive a bachelor's degree not use all of their eligibility pursuing certificates or associate's degrees. Aggregate loan limits. There are annual loan limits as to how much a student can receive per year based on their grade level. Additionally, each student has an aggregate limit for each type of loan which counts all previously borrowed loans. The overall aggregate limits work much like the Pell. Students have a set amount for your entire undergraduate career. That includes certificates, associates, and bachelor's degrees. Let's wrap everything up. Remember, there are 3 basic criteria to maintaining eligibility for financial aid. A 2.0 cumulative GPA, a cumulative 70% completion rate, and you're expected to obtain your associate's degree within 90 credits. If you have questions about your satisfactory academic progress standing, please feel free to give us a call or drop by our office. We'd be glad to help you with that or any other financial aid questions you have. Thank you for listening, and I wish you all luck in your college careers.